we're studying this lesson called What's for Dinner? What's for Dinner? We're paying attention to intonation. So let's take a look at the sound focus preview. Sound focus preview shows us what we're going to study. We're trying to focus on in this lesson. So remember, every lesson we want to focus on different aspects of pronunciation. And the last lesson we focused on things like syllables and also the sounds z and is, and on linking words together, linking and reduction. So this one we're going to continue to work on those sounds. We're not going to forget them. We're going to still remember our s, z endings. We're still going to try to remember to say things phrase by phrase and link words together. But we're also going to pay attention to different types of intonation. Intonation. So when we talk about intonation, what do we mean? So intonation, let's look at this word. The word intonation has several parts to it, right? So the median, what is the middle part of the word intonation? Intonation. Do you see the word tone in there? You know the word tone? Okay. And you see that we have tone. So tone, la, 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 different tone, different pitch. So we can call those tone or pitch, right? Now, we have ation. What is the suffix ation? What do we know? Is that a noun or a verb? When we see this ation suffix, when we hear the suffix ation, do we think it's a noun or a verb? Noun. It's a noun, right. When we hear ation, it's always going to be a noun. So it's some sort of a noun. It means some sort of action, all right? So when we say blah, 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 ation, it means the action of doing something. So what is it we're doing here? We are using intonation. In. What does in means? In means trying to do something or making something. So what this is making tone changes. All right. In some languages, we have tones. And that's different from intonation. Some of you have tones in your language. What language? What languages have tones? Come on, you guys who speak these languages with tones. Does Chinese have tones? Yes. Yes, Chinese has tones. How many of you speak Chinese? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you speak Vietnamese? Raise your hand. Okay, you got a lot of Vietnamese speakers. You have tones in your language too. So different tones, you learn the word with a tone on it. So have you ever heard Americans or foreigners try to speak your language? Yes. How does it sound? Awful? Okay, it sounds like English. What makes it so difficult for like English speakers to learn to speak Chinese or Vietnamese? Some of it is the pronunciation of the sounds, like the consonants and vowels. But a lot of times it's the tone, because they can't hear. If they're not used to hearing ma, 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 different sounds, if they don't hear them, it's difficult for them to pronounce it also. In those languages that are tone languages, the word has a tone. But in English, words do not have tones. Words do not have tones. So for example, when we say the word father, father, you learn the word father and you hear ha, 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 ha. And then I want to teach you the word grandfather, grandfather. But you still want to say grandfather, grandfather, because maybe in your mind you think, oh, this word is always father, father. But that's not true. Sometimes it's father, sometimes it's father, and sometimes it's grandfather. The tone changes. So you have to break yourself away. If you are a language, if your native language is a tone language like Chinese or Vietnamese, then you have to break yourself from that habit and you have to learn intonation in the American way or in the English-speaking way. So what we think of is not tone, but intonation patterns where you can hear la 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 la. You can hear it, and we have certain patterns that we use over phrases and over sentence types, but not on a word by itself. Okay, so I can take the word and I say water, 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 water. It's the same word in English. But if you say though ma, 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 ma in Chinese, those are all different words. So in English, they're not different words. It's still the same word. And we have to put that intonation into a context of a sentence. So we're going to learn some things. First of all, we're going to train you to hear the intonation and hear the difference between, say, even intonation and rising intonation and falling intonation. So you don't read, when you read a book, When you read a book, you don't see intonation in a book, right? You can't see it. If you speak Vietnamese, there's a mark that shows you the tone, right? The tone in Vietnamese. You see all those, you see all those marks, but in Chinese you don't. In many languages you don't. In English there's nothing written down about intonation. So that's why I'm trying to train your ears to hear it and trying to get you to feel the music in your body, in your soul, so that you can sing English. All right? Yeah, I want you to do that. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of practice with intonation and hearing it and identifying if it's even or rising or falling. Then we're also going to find out some patterns that we typically use for statements. You know what a statement is? What is the meaning? Statement. What is a statement? A statement is a kind of a sentence. Is it a sentence with a question mark or is it a sentence with a period? Which one is it? Statement. Is it with a question mark or the period? Period. Okay, so if a sentence, a written sentence, has a period, then we call that a statement because you're stating a fact. You're just telling something. For example, I'm a teacher. I teach English. I speak English. So that's a statement. Now, the other kind of sentence is a question. And when you write it, you have to put a question mark at the end of it. So when we see it on paper, we know that it's a question. So for example, I say, am I a teacher? Do I speak English? Do I like teaching? That's a question, right? And in punctuating it on paper, I have to put a question mark. We have different intonation patterns for I'm a teacher. Am I a teacher? These are two different intonation patterns. So what we need to do in English is to learn the general patterns that we use for statements, learn the general pattern that we use for yes-no questions. And yes-no questions are different from WH questions. WH questions start with who, what, where, when, and why, and also how and how many and how much and how often and how far and how anything, okay? So when a word begins with a question begins with a question word, then we have a pattern that's just like our statement. So if I say, who are you? What's your name? What are you doing? It has the same intonation pattern as I'm teaching English. I'm learning about intonation. Has that same pattern. So we have to be careful about what intonation pattern we use because that helps give meaning to our listeners. We also have patterns for when we have a choice. For example, what's in here? Water or whiskey? I don't think so. Really? Okay. So do you want coffee or tea? That's a choice, right? But I don't want to say, do you want coffee or tea? We don't make questions like that. We use rising intonation on the first, and we use falling intonation on the second. So that's another pattern that if you can learn the pattern of rising intonation on the first and falling intonation on the second, then you can apply this intonation pattern to any kind of a choice question. Now, sometimes we have more than one thing, okay? So you can say, what colors do you like? Ooh, I like red. I like purple. I like blue. I like pink. So you can name all of them. All right, and then suppose you decide I like four colors. I like purple and red and blue and pink. Or if I just want 3 colors, I like green, yellow, and orange. So there's a pattern. La la la, la la la, and la la la. There's a pattern. La la la, la la la, la la la, and la la la. Or I have 5 things. La la la, la la la, la la la, la la, and la la la. If I have 6 things. La la la, la la la, la la la, and la 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 la. So there's a pattern that we use for when we're listing many things. All right? But if we have la la la, la la la, la la la, la la la, by that time your friends will go running away because they'll be bored with your intonation pattern. Okay, so those are some intonation patterns that we're going to practice in this lesson. And we're going to continue to work on our reductions because, as you know, in conversation, we reduce a lot of the sounds. In writing, they have to have one word here and then a space and then another word over here. We have to do that in writing. But we don't speak like that. We don't put spaces in between the words. Oh. Isn't that hard to listen to? It's hard to listen to, right? You're going like, oh no, what is she doing? Okay, so some of you might speak like that, and it might be hard to hear for other people. I'm used to hearing it, so it's okay. But I want to teach you how to link those words together. And sometimes when they come together, we reduce the sound, we change it. For example, when we practiced the sentence here, I asked you to find a partner, and I said, you can ask your partner what?
Would you?
Would you? Would you? Would you what?
Would you like to?
Would you like to be my partner, right? So I asked you to say, not would you, but would you? Would you? Would you? So this word would, this word you together, would you? Would you? So it has a different sound, right? So these kinds, if you learn these kinds of patterns, you sound so much better. You don't sound so foreign because it sounds like what we're at a time, this is, look, you're reading instead of really speaking. So would you, could you, did you? These kinds of patterns will help you make your oral, your spoken language much more fluid. Okay? Sound good? You ready for this lesson?
Yes.
Good. How about the vocabulary? Want to look at the vocabulary focus?